It's Allie with Softball Youth. I'm director of Fastpitch for all of our softball brands at Athletic Sports Group. I am here with Erika Piancastelli and my right-hand man, Alicia. Of course, all of you guys know Alicia and me, but Erika, why don't you say hi to our Softball Youth Elite group?
Hey everyone, so happy to be here.
Awesome. I will give a little bit of a rundown on Erika and all her unbelievable accomplishments, and then make some connections on kind of how we got her to be here, how I know her, how Alicia knows her. It's such a small world. It's crazy in the softball space. But first, let's start with an endless list of unbelievable things. I only picked some top things because Erika's really done so many impressive things in her career that I could go on forever. But the biggest thing now is obviously she's on the Italian national team that qualified for the Olympics. We'll get back to that because I think Alicia probably has some feelings on that, which is an incredible feat, obviously. Scrapyard Dogs team member. Erika went to McNeese State University, which is in my former conference that I coached in. She was a top 10 National Freshman of the Year finalist, two-time All-American, Conference Freshman of the Year, and four-time Player of the Year. That is a really, really incredible stat that basically means she never had a sophomore slump, which Alicia and I know is a really hard thing not to make happen.
Yeah.
And she finished with a 400 career batting average, career and single season home run record holder, and a plethora of other really incredible records, not only at McNeese, but in Division I and in the conference. So super excited to have you here, Erika. Not only because I know you're a really great player because I had to coach against you for 4 years, but because everything you hear about her is true. She's super modest and wants to give back to you leaders here and all of our softball youth people. So it's awesome to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. So quick, I alluded to it earlier just a second ago, but Erika played at McNeese and I coached against her for 4 years when I was still coaching. One of my former athletes went over and actually coached you for a few years as well. So there's a couple connections there. Alicia, you want to talk a little bit about how you know Erika?
Yeah, I know Erika because I was a member of the Great Britain national team. And of course, she was our biggest threat anytime we played Team Italia. And it was one of those things, every time she went up to bat, everyone just kind of looked and we're like, we're either going to walk her or she's going to hit something over the fence or get on either way. So honestly, I know, Allie, I talked to you about this a little bit ago, but you honestly were the best player I've ever faced. I mean, you were such a threat on the field, especially at the plate. It's just a huge honor to have you. So thanks for coming on.
Okay, so let's get started. I want to talk about a couple things before we get into some elite specific questions. Let's talk a little bit about, I don't know, your feelings on the Olympic situation being moved. I know this was going to be a really special anniversary year for you with your mom and that whole thing. Why don't you give us a little rundown, Erika, on your mom's connection to softball, how that kind of filtered down through you, and what you and all of, like, you think the international players are feeling right now.
Well, with the Italian national team and my mom actually played on the Italian national team in the 2000 Olympic Games in Sydney, and she's also a catcher, so that's where it all started. So that was in 2000. So me going to the Olympics this year would have been 20 years later. And the number 20 for me and my family is just a really big deal. I don't know how it started, but my mom was number 20 when she played. When she met my dad, who played baseball, he was number 20.
Wow.
Me and my sister were born on June 20th. I'm number 20. So we just have a lot of things that correlate to the number 20. So having to go to the Olympics 20 years after my mom was just like a goosebump feeling. But then the coronavirus happened. So at first, I want to say the whole team was very stressed out just because they kept talking about maybe postponing it, maybe moving it, but it was never really official for the first couple of weeks. So we were kind of stressed out, as in, do we still train? Do we have to kind of figure out ways to train while at home? Just because we were the first country that was going to the Olympics that was shut down. So like Canada was still training.
Right, I
Mexico
didn't
was
mention
still
this,
training.
but you are in Italy. You live there now.
Yeah, I'm in Italy right now.
Right. I didn't mention that. I should have.
So we were completely shut down, but no one else was. So we kept seeing videos and news of other teams still training. So we kind of were just like, well, this kind of sucks. Like we're not doing anything, but we might still have the Olympics, and we don't want to like show up unprepared. So we kept trying to find ways to train. And then when the news came out that it got postponed, you kind of get like a sigh of relief at first, because you're just like, okay, I finally know what's happening and it's official. But then you're also heartbroken because we were so close. We were like 4 months out, and we had started training this year. And so it was kind of a bunch of emotions at once. But to think on the positive side, we do get an extra year to train, which is huge for us. Every team is pretty much at an equal baseline right now. No one's training. So that's also another sigh of relief. Like you're not the only one that's kind of like having to stay still. But yeah, the extra year.
Is your plan to stay over there the entire time? Are you coming back to the States at all?
No, I think as soon as we're able to travel and like move around, I think I'm going to come back to the States just because I can train a lot better out there.
Right.
Maybe find a team to play for. But I also play for a team in Italy on the Italian league.
Right.
So it also depends on how our season is going to be affected with that.
Sure. How many, do any of your Italian team members, are they all over there?
We have 4 girls that are in the States right now.
Okay, gotcha.
I want to say everyone else though is in Italy.
Yeah, so interesting. I'm curious to see how that plays out with training too for all the teams. It'll be interesting to follow. Okay. Yeah, I love that connection with your mom. I think that's.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. My dad sold cars, and my mom like never played sports, so you know. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your recruiting experience, how you ended up at McNeese. Tell me a little bit about what that looked like for you, because all of our elite team members and families, they want to play at the next level, and they're doing their best to try to make that happen. And you know, we want to give them resources to see that there are unbelievable athletes at all levels, major D1, mid-major D1, Division II, Division III. All options are good options. So talk a little bit about your story and how you ended up there.
Well, I played for the travel team. They were called the San Diego Rebels. I don't think they're a team anymore, but we were a travel team based out of San Diego, and we did a lot of tournaments in California and in Colorado. And so my biggest thing was just like the big tournaments, like PGF, Sparkler Tournament, all those. I got recruited the summer going into my junior year of high school, and it was at the Colorado tournament, the PGF tournament. And usually they have like a clinic that you can sign up for before the actual tournament starts. And so I signed up for that, and I was catching one of our pitchers, Amber Schisler.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't know you and Amber played together. Okay.
Oh yeah, me, Amber Schisler, and Tori Yanator and Haley Drew all played on the same travel team.
I didn't know Amber. I knew the other two.
Yeah, and I was catching Amber, and that's when Coach Mike Smith had seen us, and so he recruited me and Amber at that camp, or that's where he saw us. And then the tournament following, he also saw Haley Drew. So us three got recruited at all like together in the same weekend. And then a couple of tournaments later, he also saw Tori Yanator, and so then she got recruited as well. So I think that was a huge thing for me, just knowing that I knew 3 other girls that were going to go to a school that was far from home. I was from California, and the school was in Louisiana, so it was a huge step for me. But knowing that I had some teammates going, 2 of them were a year older than me, so I could ask them questions like the year before and get kind of more relaxed. But
so initially, did you think you didn't want to go far from home?
Well, initially, I didn't even think about college. Like, I was just playing travel ball just because I love playing. I love the competitive tournaments, and I love my team. But for me, it's kind of like that was it. I was just playing to have fun, and I never really I wasn't one that was like, I have to contact all these colleges. Like, I'm gonna.
So you got lucky, basically.
Pretty much. Like, I think Coach Smith just told me about McNeese, and me and Haley Googled it that night, and it was just like, I never really thought about going to college to play softball. Like it wasn't, and I was also young. I think maybe I was like, didn't expect it to happen my sophomore year.
Sure.
But so that
really,
happened.
I mean, McNeese was your only offer, because once that came
It was,
around, that was your decision.
It was that summer I had an offer from McNeese and LIU Brooklyn. But McNeese's offer was just a lot better for me, and I knew people going. So I kind of just accepted it with Haley. Like we accepted at the same time, went on an unofficial visit, and then went on an official visit. And just like the atmosphere and being in a whole different state and just like the whole countryside of it really got me, and I was excited. Yeah,
that's so interesting. You know, and a lot of people, and I'm gonna ask you a question. I hope you don't. I think you'll understand why I'm asking. I mean, through your career at McNeese, obviously you had a ton of success. I imagine that given the low profile recruiting experience, that maybe even you were surprised with your lack of, or with your amount of success your freshman year.
Absolutely. I wasn't even supposed to play freshman year. We had a starting senior catcher.
Yeah.
And so for me also, like going to college, I was like, usually you don't start as a freshman. Like I was kind of just like going through the motions, just kind of like getting all the information and just being a typical freshman. And then she wasn't able to play, and so our winter meeting.
And that was a big loss. I mean, she was a very good player.
That's why no one expected it. And so my coach, our exit meeting before the winter break, she was just like, well, she can't play this year, so we need you to step up and be the starting catcher. And I was just kind of like, okay, like, sure. I mean, I can't really say no to that. And so that's just how my freshman year started. And it kind of just, I just played. Like my thing is I'm not really one to like stress out about pressure situations. I kind of just live in the moment and just try to enjoy it. And so I think that was a big part of my success, is I just kind of like kept going with the flow of freshman year of everything that was happening. I was just playing to have fun. And I love freshman year is probably my best year. Like I loved the whole experience, and that's where it all started.
Yeah, that is so nuts. You know, typically when someone's up for, top 10 national freshman of the year, it's because they've been extremely highly recruited. They're at a top 10 university. They've had tons of offers. They've been training in the weight room since they were 7. And it's just a really good message to send. Not that I recommend your path. I mean, I think you can admit that you got lucky, and maybe didn't put in the recruiting effort that, looking back, you would have done differently.
Especially how the generation is now with like college girls training to go to college, and like the level of travel ball at this year is crazy competitive. And so for me, it's just kind of like luck.
It's a good message though, because that happened to you, and it's never too late. You can go to a mid-major school, you can go to a Division II school, a Division III school, and still have a ton of success and have a really awesome experience. So during your career, you went through some coaching changes, and also had a ton of success. And very commonly, when somebody has a freshman year like you did, a sophomore year like you did, people leave. People transfer and go to bigger schools. Why was that not an option for you? Because I'm sure it came your way. I guarantee it came your way. What made you not want to try something bigger?
I think for me, it was McNeese, what it gave me, the community, the coaches. I wouldn't have had the success that I had my freshman and sophomore year if it wasn't for Coach James Langenu, if it wasn't for my teammates, if it wasn't for the support of the community. And it just felt like I just got a weird feeling even just thinking about leaving a place that is the reason why I had so much success. And I just could tell that we were just growing, like we were just getting started. McNeese is just getting put on the map. And so I didn't want to leave and just like abandon people that, like, without them, I wouldn't have been the player that I was. And I loved McNeese. I loved everything that it brought me. I loved just the whole community and the whole small town school vibe it had. And so I never really even gave it a chance to leave.
That's awesome. I just think that type of loyalty, especially in college sports now, is getting lost. And even in travel ball, you know, like the next good team comes around and everyone's hopping ship. And I think that's just a really cool message to send. Okay, last question that I have and thing I want to talk about, because I don't want to run out of time, is talk a little bit about the differences between playing Division I softball, playing international softball, and playing professional softball in the States. Talk about like the 3 different types of teams, types of training, what you like about it, what maybe you don't.
Well, I think the biggest thing with D1 softball is it's pretty much a job. Like every day, every morning you wake up, you work, it's the same, you have a routine. You play a bunch of games, like your body goes through so much stress, and it's kind of just like a job. Like you wake up, you show up, and you put in the work.
Right.
Once you get into the professional though, in the States, it's more of like you're just on your own. So you have to adapt to not having a routine and not having a coach tell you like, okay, you have weights at this time and you have to train at this time and practice at this time. It's like
really
you're an adult now.
Totally. It's hard to train on your own. Like
it's
even
hard.
Going home for Christmas breaks, when you don't have your team around you and those resources pushing you, it's really tough.
And it's like you're training because you know you have to be at a high level because you're on a team where you're not the only good one anymore. Like you're on a team with everyone on that team was a stud on their college team. Like you're surrounded by amazing players, and you can't just sit back and kind of just like expect your talent to help you out anymore. And so I think the hardest thing going from D1 to pro was just like adapting to having to create my own schedule and train and keep myself accountable. And then going to international ball, out here, the Italian league, I want to say the level isn't as high as it is in the States, just because softball is not known at all. Like it's just a very, very small sport, and not a lot of people know about it, let alone baseball. So like when someone asks me what sport I play out here, I have to say female baseball, like the women's baseball, for them to get it, because they don't know. If you say softball, they kind of just look at you.
That's awesome.
And so just because of that, they don't really have the tools. They don't have the facilities where they train the way we did in the States. And it's more of just kind of like a hobby out here.
Right.
And so you kind of just, what I like about international ball is it just makes you fall in love with the game even more, because it takes all that pressure away, and it takes all that, you have to do this and you have to be good and you have to be better than all these players. And out here, it's more of like, you can tell that they just play because they genuinely love the sport. And I think that's what really got me back to why I play softball and why I love it so much.
That's awesome. It's so interesting to hear the different levels and what that means as far as like being a teammate and training yourself and all of that stuff. So that's awesome. Okay, let's get rolling with a couple questions that is directly from our OPS. I did want to mention something for Erika. Before I forget, a really, really good resource for our elite family. A lot of these girls, especially during this time, have really taken it upon themselves to train at home fitness. I've really been preaching that the very first impression you make when you get to college is your conditioning test. Like before you swing a bat or throw a ball or field a ball, you run. And if that's something that girls can start to train now at home, that's something that I did not know was so important when I was in high school. And I was really small and fast, so it ended up being okay because running was like easy for me. I was that kid, but I sucked in the weight room. And anyway, so let's tell me a little bit about your fitness Instagram and kind of how that started and stuff, because it's an awesome tool. Like girls, if you don't follow Erika on her fitness platform, go find her right now on Instagram. It's really, really good.
Well, the way it started at first was just for me, just to keep me accountable while I was here in Italy, just to keep training for the national team, and just to like kind of, if I knew that I had to post something about it, it made me actually want to go to the gym. So it really kept me accountable. And then I kind of put that on hold just because we started playing, so I wasn't really training like in the weight room anymore. And then this whole coronavirus thing happened, and I was like, well, I have a fitness page that kept me accountable before, and now that I really need to be even motivated and more kept accountable, I was like, I'm going to start making at-home workouts that I can post, because a lot of people a lot of my friends kept asking me, like, what can I do at home? What can I do to not just be sitting on the couch? And so,
well, especially because you guys couldn't even go outside. So like you couldn't
yeah,
even run, you couldn't.
Still can't, yeah.
Right. So all of this stuff is legitimately in your apartment, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's all in one little spot. And at first, like I said before with the Olympics, we were still training for that because we had no idea. So I was like, I can't stay just on the couch watching Netflix. Like, I have to keep my muscles moving. Like, I have to do something. And so that's where it all started. And I started doing at-home workouts. And so now it's just kind of, it's like a hobby for me. Like, I love creating new content. I like mixing things up and just staying active. And I've been getting a lot of positive feedback from it. And a lot of girls, especially in Italy, saying that it's helping them just stay in shape more, which is really exciting for me. I didn't think it'd get this big, but
yeah,
it's a cool platform to have.
that's awesome.
Sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, so girls, if you don't if you don't follow Erika's fitness Instagram, do it, because it'll give you tons and tons of resources, and I'm sure she'll continue it once we're out of this whole virus thing, and she can do some. They're tough though, so strap it on, be ready. Yeah. Okay.
You can modify them.
Yep. Yes. Of course. And if you have any questions, I'm sure that if they message you, you can help out a little bit. That'd be really cool. Awesome. Okay. So a couple elite questions. What do you think about now with how crazy all sports are? A lot of girls are sports specializing in playing one sport and only playing softball from a young age. What do you think about that?
I never only played one sport. I was very like, I love being outside. I love being active. And so for me, I always played, like, even before softball. My parents never forced softball. I mean, you would think because they played baseball, softball, they're like, oh, you're going to start with softball. But that was actually the last option for me, is just because they didn't want to force it. So I did dance, I did gymnastics, basketball, volleyball, swimming. Like, I've tried it all. And even in high school, I played basketball, volleyball, and softball. So I didn't like specifically only practice one sport until it got more competitive, and then I got recruited, and I just had to focus on one sport. But I think playing multiple sports will help you with every aspect of being an athlete, just keeping you in shape for one, because softball isn't year round, keeping you in shape and just having that mindset. I feel like
totally.
The players that play more than one sport have a different mindset than the ones that just focus on one sport.
I always said I love multi-sport athletes. I like athletes. Like, my teams were always a little bit smaller, but we were always squirrely and feisty and like all the things that like athletes have. That's what I wanted. Mm-hmm. And I think like you're right. I think that totally, and it makes you less injury prone, which is the number one most important thing. I mean, to stay healthy, especially as a catcher. I mean, you had struggled with some injuries. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But yeah, it's so important to train different types of movements, and that happens when you play multiple sports.
And it makes you better when it comes down to you just zoning in on softball. It just makes you more athletic to play more than one position, because I always tell people, like, don't stick to one position. Totally. Especially if you're trying to get recruited for college.
Right.
The more positions,
because everybody on the field's a shortstop, most likely, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and the position that you get recruited for, you go to college, you might not even play that position. Like, they're going to move you around. They're going to want you to play more than one position. So I think that's huge for
some of the best kids I've ever coached never once played the field where I thought they were going to end up playing the field, you know?
Yeah.
And
my freshman year, they would put me in the outfield. They put me as a first base just because we already had a catcher. So I was kind of being moved around. And it wasn't until I had to catch freshman year, once season started, that I zoned in on catching and playing third. But I played every single position in the fall of my freshman year.
Right. Yeah, nuts. Okay, that was a great one. Give us some ideas, and maybe this is something you could like post even on your fitness page, just for these guys. Give us a few ideas of your favorite hitting drills that work for you, that you like to do.
My favorite drill that I've been doing now, which I learned recently, is called the 45-degree drill. And it just pretty much takes your whole load out of your swing, and you're already in your load position, and you just have to be quick with your bat.
Yeah. I saw you doing that in the cage.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite drills right now, just because it allows me to feel everything, and it makes my swing like actually feel very fluid and very fast. And then that's one. And then I really just try to break down my swing, especially now that I'm not really getting ready for anything. So I just try to really break down my swing and just feel. The most important thing about hitting for me is just feeling your body, because I can't, like, a coach can't tell you what you're feeling. So I feel like if you can find a drill that allows you to actually feel your movement, that's the best drill for you.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think that something that is finally trending is people understanding that like hitting the ball in the air is a good thing, and getting out of the old, the swing that I was taught, and I'm not that much older than you, but the swing that I was taught, short, choppy, hit the ball on the ground and run. And we're finally evolving as a sport, thank God, to understanding that movements are movements, whether they're for men or women, right? So I'd love for you to talk about, because you have a very baseball swing, right? And it's evolved some over your career, but you always really had some certain things that were, especially your freshman year, you didn't see a ton of them around yet. So, did you ever get, did people ever tell you were too big, your swings were too big? Talk a little bit about that.
The most comments I got my freshman year with my leg kick was, when she faces a faster pitcher, she won't be able to make contact because her swing is too long,
right.
Or she either is going to hit it out or hit a pop fly. So just because my swing naturally was very baseball-like you go down and up,
right,
which is very loopy. But now the more softball is evolving, softball and baseball, especially when it comes to hitting, is not different at all. It can really break down the swing. And so like even now I see so many people with a leg kick, and it's just kind of like, I love that softball has evolved to the point where there isn't that much of a difference, because then it just makes hitting that much easier, because you're not comparing it to something, it's a movement, like you said, and just depending where the ball is, that's where your movement goes. And so I think for me, I naturally I've always had that swing, and my parents have always taught me to just always swing hard, no matter what, swing hard. Yep. Even if you miss the ball, I'd rather you miss by swinging really hard. And so that I've always had that in my head. And so I think now it's just really important for people to just focus on being powerful as hitters, and not focus on, am I doing a softball swing, or is this too big of a swing? Am I swinging out of my socks, however that statement is called? Yeah. Like, it's just like swing hard every single time, and that's how you grow as a hitter, I feel like. Because if you just adapt to the pitch, like if you're going to slow your swing down because it's a changeup, then a lot of players do that, and that's where I think they get messed up a lot. Because they're trying to adapt their swing.
Right, and it's tough not to, but I say the same things. Like, when you're training, the thought should be, what's the difference in a swing and miss and a ground ball? Nothing. They're both outs. Right? Yeah. So let's hit the ball hard and hit the ball through. And yes, of course, situational, put the ball on the ground sometimes. There's that, but that comes down the road, And I think, I love how you train. I think if you're going to take swings, like take some swings, Yeah. So there's a lot of good videos on, if you Google there's a ton of really amazing videos. And I think the coolest part is the different locations of pitches that you hit equally as hard as the other. And that's something that I think is missed a lot too. So that's good insight. Okay, some more questions. Let's see. I'm gonna work through some of these. Some of them we've talked about. Okay, so if you could go back and talk to your like freshman and college self, or even maybe just before that, like what's something you would go back and do differently if you had the opportunity to do so?
If I could go back and I knew that this is where I wanted to be when I was so young, I just probably would have focused a lot more on going to college as a softball player, as an athlete. Because for me, the training, like now you see I have a fitness page and I'm super into fitness, but that's not how it was. That's not how I was in high school. I hated working out. I hated running.
It sounds like you didn't have a lot of, like other than your parents who are obviously athletes, it doesn't sound like you had a ton of resources really pushing you to do the things that maybe you should have been doing.
No, exactly. Like I I think I just kind of enjoyed playing, but I never really thought more of it. Like I wasn't someone that watched softball on TV until I got to college. I wasn't someone that like I just played because it was something that made me happy, distracted me, it like kept me in my own little world. But then you get recruited and you go to college and like your whole world of softball just opens up. And
Completely, yeah.
I feel like if I would have known that earlier, I could have gotten a jump start. Like you said, especially my freshman year, like I didn't expect any of that to happen my freshman year. Even like the fall of my freshman year, if I would have go back, I probably would have just been like, you want to be a starter, you want to fight for a starting position. I was more of like, I'm here to learn. I'm a freshman. Like I'm just going to take in all the information, but I wasn't expecting to play.
Right.
And I think that's what I would have changed. Is just my mindset is like, imagine how strong and powerful you could have been as an athlete if you just would have gotten a jump start.
Knew how to
So
take care of your body.
Yeah.
Knew how to
Exactly.
do right. You know, that's awesome advice. So it's crazy for me to hear, and I had obviously a little bit of insight on how you got there and what your path was, but it's crazy to think that you have been as successful as you are and really just started so late on, like you said, high level training and stuff like that. It's just a testament to what a unbelievable, like your God-given abilities and talents and stuff. And then they just were able to peak given a little bit of resources, you know, it's nuts. Okay, next couple questions. This is a great one. Best softball memory and why?
Best softball memory in college or in general?
In general. If you have a few, you could name a few.
I think the best game that still gives me goosebumps is probably at the Olympic qualifier against Holland. It's the video you guys put up for the website, and it was Holland for us has always just been our biggest competitor. In every single tournament, it's always us, Holland, just kind of like fighting it. They win, we win. So they just always have been our biggest competitor. And
they have a lot of softball leagues out there. They're very the Dutch are very softball driven. Yeah.
Softball is a lot bigger in the Netherlands than it is in Italy.
Right.
And that game, first inning, no outs, they already scored 4 runs. Like we were down 4-0 off the bat. And I think that game, just for me as a player, but also for our team, who the way we like bounced back from that, I've never seen Italy do that as a team. And so that whole game, I think, was just like a game that I will never forget. Just the grit that we had as a team, just bouncing back the next inning and just winning that game with everything that was happening. It honestly makes me speechless every time I talk about it, just because I've never ever seen our team react the way that we did that game, and so that was huge for us.
Awesome, that's a good one. What about in college? Do you have one moment? If it was against me, you're gonna just need to not say it.
No, no, it's against Nichols. Actually, it was my senior year at the tournament, at the conference tournament. I want to say it was the first game of the championship. We had to beat Nichols twice.
Oh yes.
And we were down 1-0. We were down 1-0 in the top of the 7th, and so. So I think if we would have lost, that would have been it. I'm pretty sure that's how it worked at that tournament. But I don't know. I don't know. My parents were there, the crowd, the whole, just like the vibe of that whole game. I was very relaxed. And I ended up hitting the home run to tie the game in the 7th. And then Morgan behind me scored the run to win the game at the top of the 7th. So I think that was a memory that I'll always remember for senior year. Just everything that happened, and my whole senior year itself was just probably my best year.
Why do you say that?
Mentally, physically, just everything. I really, I don't know if it was because it was my senior year and it just all hits you that year.
You have a totally different perspective. Your last
year.
You're
just like, I'm gonna enjoy every
you just quit complaining.
moment.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. You quit complaining. You really just take it all in. And then the closer you get to the end, you're just like, I don't want it to end. I don't want it to end. So you're really just trying to make it the best it can be. And my senior year is just where I felt so free mentally and physically, just like my headspace. I was just kind of like, I went back to how I was in travel ball, or even my freshman year, I was just playing to have fun. And I think that was when I was at my best, was just when I took off all the pressure and I just really just played to enjoy the game for what it was.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a good one. Okay, last two questions and then we're out of time. We didn't get to quite everything, but we talked a lot. And I think the best thing that you can do as a young softball player is watch and listen. Like I always said, when we would go and we'd play like the big guys, right? So we'd play LSU and A&M and everybody that everybody sees on TV at the World Series. Like those were teams that we were fortunate enough to play a lot, right? And if you were too good in those moments to watch some of those girls and try to learn from those girls, then shame on you, right? I mean, that's how I did the same as a coach, you know, like when we played Oklahoma, like if I'm not watching Patty Gasso, like, and trying to learn from her, then it's a missed opportunity, right? So I think like things like this, like all these Zooms that everybody's doing, listening to your story, which is so different from so many other good softball players' stories, that kind of stuff is just a really great way to learn from your successes, maybe some of your mistakes, everything. I think all of that is really a beautiful opportunity for these guys. Okay, last question. This is a really, really good one. What do you consider to be the biggest obstacle you faced consistently during your career? Like, was it trying to be perfect? Was it distractions off the field? Was it, I mean, what do you think you struggled with the most while you were in your college career?
I think in my college career, my biggest obstacle was my mental game. Like you said, I did have a lot of success in freshman year, sophomore year, I had a lot of success, but junior year, I think is when I let all that success kind of get to me. And I'm not someone, I don't read stats, I don't read articles, especially during season. I try not to get in my head, but junior year is when I think the biggest obstacle for me was because I started reading the articles because there was more of them. I started paying more attention to my stats and feeling like I had to be better. Yeah, I felt like I had to. I did so good my freshman year. No one expected me to do even better my sophomore year. So I'm like, I have to do even better my junior year. And so I started letting all that get into my head. And I feel like that was extremely bad for me just because it made me start thinking of only myself in some moments, especially in the game. And you could even see it in my face. I go through a slump every year. I feel like every player goes through a slump. But there's always that time where you just don't feel yourself, especially in the box. And me, like you said, my swing was always constantly changing. So I think there was that moment where I had to kind of click everything together. And so it happened during that time, which usually it takes me a week or two and I would bounce back. But like, because I felt so much pressure my junior year and I got in my head a lot, I started to just let everything build up. And it got to a point where I didn't even want to hit anymore. Like you could even tell the way I walked up into the box, like the way I was in the on deck circle, like even during hitting practice, like I was just like going through the motions. I'm like, it's not going to get better. Like I was like 0 for 20 at one point, like 0 for 30. Like I just nothing was clicking. And then because nothing was clicking and I was going 0 for, I kept thinking about that and then thinking about my stats. And I was like, well, I just kept getting more and more frustrated. And it wasn't until my coach James, just sat me down and he's like, it's all over your face. Like you're literally like, you can just see it by the way you even just walk on the field. And I think I needed him to really just like be super honest with me and like open up my eyes to like how I was acting and like how not important those things are. Like stats aren't important. Like you're not going to remember your stats. Like if you ask me right now, I don't know my stats. I don't even know half my accolades. Like I just remember the memories I made in the games, and that's what I remember about my college experience. And like I'm not going to remember what I did on this game on this day. So it's like I think I just needed him to be super honest and just take me out of that mental space for me to get back to how I was as a player, where I just kind of enjoyed every moment. Like when I would go up to bat, I always just say see ball, hit ball. Like I try to keep it simple. There's not much going through my head. And I think that was my biggest obstacle, was just trying to get out of that mental space that I created, which every time I even think about it, I'm just like, wow, like that was bad. Like that was crazy, because I'm not someone that like lets that get to me, especially as a player. And just, I know a lot of players go through that, especially the mental side, is like they go through all the clout and they go through putting so much extra pressure. Like softball already puts pressure on you, college itself, D1 puts pressure on you. And so if you add your own pressure, like it's just gonna destroy you. And I think getting out of that was my biggest obstacle in
That's a great
college.
answer. That's an awesome answer. And I think some players like it. They like the pressure, and that's why they've been successful. And then some of the best players I ever coached couldn't, not that they couldn't handle it, they didn't do their best when it was put on them. But I had kids who wanted it too. So I think playing for a coach that knows that about you, and you being aware of that, you know, in the way that you play, is so important. And those are things that
And I think I also,
go ahead.
sorry, I think I also needed that though, to be like where I am now. Is just like I needed to go through that mental side of it to know that I am stronger than that. And that, because I love, like if you ask me now, like I love pressure situations.
Yeah.
Like I want to play the best team. I want to play bases loaded, 2 outs, up to bat, like in the 7th. Like I love that pressure and I love that competitiveness now.
But you had to get out of that, right?
Yeah. If you were to have asked me that question in that moment where I was junior year, I'd been like, I was like, no, I can't handle it right now.
Right.
So I think I really needed that to grow and to be able to understand what type of athlete I am now.
Totally. Awesome. Well, Erika, thank you so much for being here. Leaders, I hope you guys follow Erika on her Instagram, on her fitness. It's a great tool, and I hope you Google her when you get out of here and realize she's just at the very beginning of her softball career, and I'm really excited. She's going to start some online training stuff that when it's available, we're going to share for her so you guys can have access to that and to her. And I think she's just a really great tool and has some really beautiful experiences. So hopefully all of you guys enjoyed it. Erika, thank you again. Hey.
Thank you for having me.